Hey everybody, Curse Deck Builder here with another deck towards our 10,000 decks. This time it's Yawgmoth Thran Physician Aristocrats. This deck comes to us from Rorgel Snaps, who says, I've got a combo ball kind of thing going with my Yawgmoth deck, but I don't have the best fast mana or tutors needed to really speed it up and make it consistent for high power. So I want to power it down for mid power instead. Looking to cut some of the weaker or redundant combo cards for a lot more interaction protection. Especially looking for ways to stop stack pieces such as Rest in Peace, removal like Darksteel Mutation, or hate bears like Dranic Magistrate from stopping my entire game plan. They also ask for general suggestions, and anything within reason is fine for the budget. So let's take a look at this. As always, the deck list is in the video description below. I highly recommend you take it out and take a look as we talk through the deck. See what you see what I see, and see if we see the same thing. What I should say is if you have any comments or any ideas that I don't have, please put the comments below. I would very much appreciate it because together we could make the deck a little stronger. So what does Yawgmoth do? Yawgmoth is a 4-mana legendary human cleric. It has protection from humans, and its main ability is that for 1 life and sacrificing a creature, you draw a card and then you may put a -1/-1 counter onto a creature. Its second ability is black, discard a card, proliferate, but we won't worry about that as much as the previous ability. This ability right here is very strong. For those who are unfamiliar, this goes off with 2 undying creatures. Undying creatures, of course, are creatures that when they die, they see if they have a +1/+1 counter on them, and if they don't, they will reanimate themselves with a +1/+1 counter. And because -1/-1 counters remove those +1/+1 counters, if you have 2 undying creatures in Yawgmoth, you can cycle counters and sacrifices between them infinitely. Now, the caveat is that you have to pay 1 life every time, but that's fine because with Death Greeter, Blood Artist effects, a lot of these cards will allow you to get life positive and start damaging your opponents on each of these cycles, these sacrifices. And with that, you will drain them out of the game. That's the main combo. I also see this deck has a second combo of Mikaeus the Unhallowed and Triskelion, and a third combo with Exquisite Blood and Sanguine Bond. Both of which work when you have both pieces on the battlefield. You are able to instantly win that way. Now, where do we start looking at this deck? Well, if you've watched some of these videos, you know the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the mana curve, which I am very impressed by. This is a very clean curve, and I would like to keep it as much like this as possible. Great job. The next thing I want to do is look at, they had mentioned that they find themselves being hated out of the game with Rest in Peace effects, which is fair because Yawgmoth is very, very dependent on the graveyard. They also said they want to cut some of the redundant combo pieces. So the first thing I want to cut is Mikaeus the Unhallowed and Triskelion. Because of our 2 additional combos, Mikaeus the Unhallowed and Triskelion require the graveyard to function. So if your opponent plays Rest in Peace, this combo is just going to be basically just as dead as Yawgmoth is. So let's toss those out. Let's keep the combo that doesn't use the graveyard, so we'll still have a backup. And then let's see what else we can kind of shave off, because I definitely see some cards we can shave off. The first thing I would like to shave off is we have a few creatures that come into play or when they die create 1 or 2 extra creatures. And I don't think we need these. I'm specifically talking about Mirror, Doom Dissenter, Carrier Thrall. Down here we have Weaponcraft Enthusiast and Sangir Autocrat. Now, what's important about these cards is they all kind of represent multiple draws. Sangir Autocrat being like, I think the strongest of them, because for 4 mana you get 4 bodies, and then for 4 life you draw 4 cards. And though that I get, and you also get to put -1/-1 counters on your opponent's creatures. Don't get me wrong, that is very strong, but it's just barely strong. Like if you aren't able to put those -1/-1 counters, You've paid 4 mana to draw 4 cards and pay 4 life. That's fine. That's not bad. One of the things that makes one life for one card is the rate you want to pay, but you want to be able to go a little higher than 4. So like this is just okay. Meanwhile, we have abilities. I mean, okay. I'm being convinced by Sangria Autocrat, but the rest I'd like to get rid of. Sangria Autocrat at least has 4 bodies. I really like that. I also particularly like if we pair it with some undying effects or stamina, and we'll get a feign death effects as I call them, which we'll get to a little later. You can get another 4 creatures. Okay, you can keep Sangria Autocrat, but the rest I'd like to get rid of. And the reason I want to get rid of them is because I feel like you already have enough redundancy where cards like Bloodghast, Bloodsoaked Champion, and Reassembling Skeleton are creatures that keep coming back from the dead, and then cards like Jadar, Bitter Blossom, Dreadhorde Invasion, and Ophiomancer, they themselves repeatedly create creatures on upkeep or on multiple upkeeps or end steps so that you can keep sacrificing. In addition, your undying creatures are fine as just undying creatures. You can still get 2 sacrifices out of them in a pinch, which is really nice. But your ghoul itself represents 2 bodies, so if you wanted, you could sacrifice it twice for 2 cards and 2 -1/-1 counters. Okay, so those we can take out. I think we have a really good number of Blood Artist effects, which is the other part of the Blood Artist combo. I'm talking about Blood Artist, Zulaport Cutthroat. Down here we have Bastion of Remembrance, we have Vindictive Vampire, and we have Falcon Wrath Noble. That's like the whole set, I think, in Mono Black. I think we're missing the Knight. We are missing the Knight, but that's okay. Sir Conrad, I believe, the Grim. So Conrad the Grim is the one we are missing, but at 5 mana, I'm particularly fine if you don't play that one. So what else do we need? We need also our sacrifice outlet, who Yawgmoth is. But as you might have thought of this, I would always like to add in Carrion Feeder, as it can sacrifice a creature, and also Viscera Seer. I'm going to be saying this a lot, I think, in all of the decks I edit, because I think if you're playing in Aristocrats, you should be playing both of these. The ability to instantly sacrifice a creature is particularly strong. The fact that it can sacrifice Yawgmoth, whereas Yawgmoth can't sacrifice himself, is pretty important. And you're already playing like Phyrexian Altar and no Ashnod's Altar, but I would also say Ashnod's Altar. All of these together give you a very nice number of cards that let you sacrifice at instant speed, which also increase the power of cards like Grave Pact and Dictate of Erebos. The next thing I want to suggest is in the same vein, as we're going towards removal, I would like to suggest Innocent Blood effects. Innocent Blood effects are cards that allow us to force each player to sacrifice a creature. Now, traditionally, I like them more on creatures than I like it just on Innocent Blood, but Innocent Blood itself is perfectly fine. Each player sacrifices a creature, let's put it on a creature, let's put it in black. These are like, let's put a mana value, Abyssal Gatekeeper, Demon's Disciple, Fleshback Marauder, Gravelighter, Merciless Executioner, and Plague Crafter. That's the set I like to play. I think there is 4 mana with Slum Reaper and Beyond, but I don't like them as much as I never thought of Shieldred as one, but Shieldred is technically an Edict effect. I'll keep that on my mind. But it's these 6 that we're mainly caring about because they are low to the ground, they go across the board, and they force your opponents to. It kind of keeps your opponents' boards in check. As long as you use these effects, your opponents will never just run out their commander on an empty field because it's just pretty much a bad idea. Because just casting another one, reanimating another one, and you take away their commander, all for like you trade maybe 3 mana for 4 or 5 of theirs. The other thing is these combo well, obviously, with the Aristocrats package of your deck, but also with cards like Dictate of Erebos, Hunger of the and Grave Pact. So you can get multiple sacrifice creatures off triggers off of one creature, which I really like. Now, when it comes to more direct removal, I think I would like Infernal Grasp as the main one for you to put in, because this is unconditional. Destroy target creature, you lose 2 life. After that, we have to start going into the conditional ones for black at 2 mana, but I really like Go for the Throat. Go for the Throat is a really, really nice one. Um, and then depending, I think you'd be safe with hmm. I think I would like the ones. I don't want to go straight into Murder, but the one after that I would play. I think I would just play Doomblade. I don't know is one word or two. Two words. Destroy target non-black creature. The other ones I don't particularly like. Victim of Night misses werewolves, vampires, and zombies, which is fine in like modern and other formats like that, but particularly bad in Commander, where not only will you miss vampires like Welcoming Vampire, but if someone shows up with a vampire deck, you've actually missed their entire deck. And in the same way, the card that only hits monocolor, that's particularly bad because most commanders are multicolor, and the ones that don't hit creatures, legendary creatures at all, are particularly bad because you want to be able to kill commanders. The next thing I want to suggest is a few more of these feign death effects. Ooh, I want it. Yes. Let's get the whole set. When this creature dies, return tapped. Go. And black. We have a few of these. You're playing, I believe, 2 of them. Abnormal Endurance, Fake Your Own Death, Feign Death, Malakir Rebirth, Return to Action, Supernatural Stamina, and Undying Malice. I would play the whole set. If you're worried about losing your commander for a number of reasons, or you would like extra triggers out of your creatures, every single one of these are good. I really don't think you have any reason. If you really wanted to not play 2 of them, I would say Fake Your Own Death and Return to Action are weaker, and Abnormal Endurance because they're 2 mana. But even then, in a deck like this, you're going to get a lot of value out of this. Just your ability to cast it on Yawgmoth, who is going to be a lightning rod for removal, is going to be very good. Now, you might need Carrion Feeder or Viserysir to sacrifice him immediately as well, so that you can keep it on the field in case of exile effects. But otherwise, I think those are pretty good bets. Now, how do we get rid of... Taking a look at your sideboard cards, I'm going to give it a quick peek. Profane Tutor is definitely playable here if you're considering it. But how else do we get rid of enchantments or graveyard hate? Do we have options? We kind of do, but they're not great. We're going to say destroy permanents. Oops. And we actually want it to be colorless. Oh, it was colorless. Okay. Yeah. Let's put it in mana value. Karn Silex is one of them, though it does kind of hate your deck quite a bit. Unstable Obelisk is one. I think these effects are fine. Unstable Obelisk, and I believe because the other one's like 7 mana. Meteor Golem isn't bad because at least you can reanimate it or sacrifice it. Those would be your best bets. I'm gonna check if you're playing any of these. No, those would be your best bets because they are a way in colorless for you to destroy a permanent. Granted, they are very, very expensive. 7 mana is a lot for this effect, but I think if that's your worry, if Rest in Peace beats your deck and you find Feed the Swarm doesn't do enough, then yeah, I would probably suggest that you play one of those cards, Meteor Golem it out of existence from the Stratosphere, and deal with it that way. I think those are generally my notes. I don't have much to say about this deck, not because it's bad in any way, but because I think the adjustments are very, very straightforward. Like if you want, this is a mono black aristocrats deck. So if you want to go in this vein, there's only so many different cards you can really add here. For example, if you're thinking of more board clears, I can suggest to you Languish right away, or after that, uh, not Wrath of God. My goodness, Doom. Why can't I remember Wrath of God's cousin? Mm, it'll come to me. It will come to me. So if you wanted, you can just play the wraths that way. Sorcery, destroy all. I meant to hit black. That's on me. Did I press color? I did. That's fine. Damnation. Thank goodness. Okay, that was gonna bother me forever. If you want, you can play Damnation. It's $15, but it's fine. Like these kind of additions, there's generally so many directions you can go with mono black or any monocolor in Commander. So those are the things I would say. Outside of that, I would say play this until you want to add a second color. Most strategies will benefit from being at least two colors. Aristocrats is one of them. But in the meantime, Yawgmoth Thran position is a very, very powerful way to play Aristocrats. You're playing a combo deck, and one of your commander cards, one of your combo pieces is your commander card, which is really, really good. Which means you only need to put together a few cards to go off. And I think if you really wanted to, Wishcloth Talisman in addition to Profane Tutor, and there was one more, Scheming Symmetry in addition again, and you can be really, really consistent that way. But at the same time, the faster you go, the more your opponents will adjust to you. So just be aware that you're doing a bit of a balancing act. If you're winning every consistently like turn 5 every time, and your opponents are going to start holding up counter magic for Yawgmoth all the time, and then there's not much you can do after that. I will say one other thing to mention. Unearth effects, even though technically they are more graveyard-centered ideas, then they do lose to Rest in Peace. At least Unearth can be cycled in a pinch, but the ability for you to buy back one of your cards is traditionally very, very good in this kind of deck. I hope this helped. If you want to show me another version of the deck or any other deck, there is a form in the YouTube description below that you can use to send me your deck. And if you want to comment, like, subscribe, all that, I would be very, very grateful, as the channel is still new and growing it is very helpful. I like this deck. I think it's straightforward. The only reason I don't have a lot to say is that it's doing almost all of the things that I want it to do. I think if you give me another draft and you want to push it further, there are a lot more cards that I could be nitpicky on, but you were aiming for like a mid power level, so I'm gonna leave it at this. And if you want more, you know where to find me. All right, good luck.